Hello there and welcome to episode 2 of Mouldie Makes. Last week you saw us tackle the Wednesday show and create 3 minifigures from scratch. In this series we are 3D printing custom minifigure parts which down the road hopefully will allow us to create brand new elements for some of our characters. We are then painting up these custom minifigures as I do not yet have a full arsenal of different Lego colors, and just finding plastic the same color as Lego is a little bit harder than mixing the paints myself. And then we are creating custom decals which are available to all brick tier members. The higher tier, $2.99, you get high quality images. And if you would like to see the Wednesday video and feel like you're missing out, I'll leave it on the end screen for you, as well as there'll be a playlist with all of my future Mouldie Makes videos. Yes, this is a series that I aim to continue for years to come over on the channel, so I'll also leave that on the end screen for you to check out. Now, we're not only making the 3 minifigures, but I also have a little display here. You'll have to stay to the end of the video to check it out, because we have done something a little bit differently from Wednesday, but I aim to have no spoilers in this video. I really enjoyed seeing the musical well over a decade ago, which is a really scary thought, so I don't want to spoil anything for the movie. All 3 characters and their costumes, their hair, and I guess to some extent their makeup has been taken straight from the movie through behind the scenes images and also other merchandise that they've put out. So let's get straight into it by looking at Elphaba. I'll put the main reference image that I used on screen when building this custom minifigure, but as you can see, I have used stickers and will some point advance to water slide decals to get all the printing on the side, but the base paint job of this minifigure is much better than the Wednesday minifigures last week. Now, you might have seen when spinning it around, we have 2 stickers on the head. There is a dual molded or a dual stickered face on this, but first off, I would like to speak about this hairpiece. Now, all elements are 3D printed here, and you could potentially, with some of these hair pieces, grab the official Lego versions, but I like the fact that I can make all of this from scratch. And this is the hairpiece of Fennec Shand over in Star Wars, from countless sets reaching all the way from Bad Batch up to the Book of Boba Fett. And her minifigure really hasn't aged, so I'd love to know what skincare she uses. Anyway, this is not the hairpiece that Lego used for the official Elphaba minifigure, as they actually go with Valkyrie's hair, which is very similar to this. The big difference is the braids at the front, which you can just see there on the center of your screen, and also the fact that the braid all the way down the back is just that, a braid, compared to Valkyrie's, which is a bit more open and wide, which is not how we see Elphaba in the promotional content. Now, Lego do use some other images and stuff that perhaps we haven't seen, so I'm not entirely sure where Lego are getting the hairpiece and that from. Plus, they also can't afford, like me, to be browsing Bricklink for hours looking for the perfect hairpiece, and would just go with the first one that they think is good enough. Friends also has a ton of different hairpieces that we haven't seen over with our Lego minifigures, but I think Fennec's hair is perfect for this Elphaba minifigure. Like I said, we do have 2 stickers. We have one with Elphaba and her glasses, as we see in this school uniform that I have built from the trailer, and the opposite side is just a really smiley, happy face, which is fitting. Elphaba doesn't have many joyous moments, but all of them probably come towards the middle of this movie. So we do have the choice of 2 heads, and I'll have some clearer images on your screen of those. But for the rest of the minifigure, I have indeed made the uniform that they wear. You can see very faintly on the top we have that collar, which was really cool to design, but once again, a bit like Wednesday's buttons from last week, I need to be making those lines thicker, and that'll be something I'll continue in this series. The pattern on this, however, was really fun to make, and I have pieced together this costume line by line. I don't use any images. This is completely drawn up by myself, including the pattern that goes across to the sides of the legs, which you can see is different to the front. I've also printed the hip pieces to match up to the trousers, and if you look very closely, the lines do indeed match. At least on the left side, I might have skewed the right leg just a little bit. But this uniform is very similar to a lot of the other characters. I cannot remember what the university is called. It's literally the name of the set that I got the minifigure ideas from. But it is the same uniform we see in Elphaba's sister, Nessa Rose. That's right, this minifigure here is the sister of Elphaba. And again, I won't be spoiling anything, but we've got a very similar design. The lines are a little different here and there. It's mostly a recoloring of Elphaba's costume. But what you can notice is instead of the dark and light blue, Nessa Rose uses a grey and white, a lot more of a typical school uniform, and has a much different hairpiece, which we will get into in a second, but it just hides some of that back printing, which is different to the front. I haven't just mimicked the front torso and called it a day. There are a few different design choices, but I really like the way the uniform turned out, and unlike Elphaba, we do have a bit of that fleshy tone showing at the bottom. You can see I have definitely improved my color matching from last week. Now, the interesting thing with the school uniforms, I like how they portray the characters. We have Nessa Rose here, who is kind of our default character based on the fact that she dresses the same as everyone else, and for this description will be used as just any other character at the school. We then have Elphaba, who is somewhat trying to fit in, but is very clearly different, using those blue tones instead of the greys. And then later on, you will see Glinda clearly wants to stand out and be different from everyone else. But Nessa Rose isn't a regular minifigure. You can see we have detailed these legs, but she won't be using them in art display, as she is portrayed in a nice shiny gold wheelchair, which in typical early 2000s fashion is used mostly as a plot point for the character to almost get over, which I'm not sure how they'll portray it in the movie. The trailer definitely hinted at something similar to what we see on stage. In fact, I have taken the alternate expression straight from the trailer when she's being lifted up in her wheelchair and has more of a happier expression, much similar to the other face we gave Elphaba. But even though we have seated her on a wheelchair, she still needs that side of the leg print in. We're going CMF style here, and I've made space for the wheelchair on the display. But just before we get to showing off the display, we have one final character in Glinda, who I'm really interested again to see how that character is pulled off in the movie. Again, brand new designs for the torso, the hip, the side of the leg, the front of the leg. And you might notice on the left leg here, we have a slight different design where there's a bit more of a pleated skirt coming out from the rest of the outfit, which I had to include. And again, I have painted these legs like they're not just dual molded, but triple molded, because they look really, really cool. You can see a bit of the white underneath, which is the base color I've used for most of these elements. Now, you'll notice with the hair, again, we are different from Lego here. I am making these minifigures my own, and I have gone with probably the worst female hairpiece I think Lego has ever made. Now, the hairpiece is not bad by any means. In fact, it's so good that I just don't like it. Lego have used this on so many different minifigures. Here you can see the exact same element that I used, which, if you're curious, is 85974 over on Bricklink. It's been used for a ton of minifigures. Black Cat, Storm, we are looking at Cara Dune over in Star Wars, Green Lantern. We have a ton of just regular minifigures, as well as the more pop culture ones like Monica from Friends, Talia al Ghul over in DC. I'm not quite sure who this character is, but even a named figure from Jurassic World, Jean Grey, Poison Ivy, America Chavez. I'm sure I can go on, keep listing all of these. We have Captain Carter and a ton more. This is only, look, about 20% of the entire list. But it just works so well for this minifigure, with that bit of hair coming over the right-hand side, the left parting as well, which there aren't many minifigure hairs with that left parting. And of course, we've gone with an alternate face. Can you guess which face we have given? No, not the grin like the other ones, but in fact, an amazed or perhaps excited, surprised expression of when Glinda first arrives at the university and is amazed by some of the sights she can see. So we have our 3 minifigures ready to display, but where are we going to display them? Well, that is where I introduce a very similar sized display to last week's Wednesday one. It is a 1x8 by about 5/3 brick built display, built using official Lego because it holds together a bit better than something I would 3D print. And I only have to 3D print the 3 minifigures for me to make them myself. But you'll notice some different songs quoted on the back, which will look really cool when we got the minifigures lined up. I cannot explain this anagram. I'm afraid if you know, you know. It is a big plot point, so don't go Googling it if you do want to be surprised. We've, of course, got the iconic song Defying Gravity, where nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever going to bring Alphabet down. But I am going to put her down on the base plate, and then we have Popular as well, sung by Glinda here. Now, if you're wondering about Nessa Rose's extra legs, I do have a spare segment on the back where they fit just down on the left behind Glinda here, just so we are able to keep all of my custom 3D printed minifigure parts together on the one display. And that extra brick you might have noticed on the left hand side clips into the wheelchair, which sits nicely above the Lego logo. Though these aren't Lego minifigures as in they're produced by Lego, the minifigure itself is inspired by the Lego design, so I felt it was right to credit Lego as well as Wicked at the bottom, and looks really nice on display next to last week's Wednesday figs. If you've made it this far into the video, I think you deserve to know what minifigures I am working on next. It ties in a little bit to Christmas and is based around a set Lego have just put out, missing a few other minifigures I'm sure most of you already know. But I'd love to hear any guesses on the minifigures that I am picking, because I am going to be making 3, and be sure you're subscribed and drop a like on the video if you do enjoy this content to encourage me to make many, many more. Like I said, I'll put last week's on screen now, as well as the playlist with any future episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and may the bricks be with you always.